just like that, it's Wednesday night. Can
And
you
we
hear
got a
me,
special
John?
guest.
Yeah. It's me and John Wilburn. We're busy working on his van, trying to get it quadrijetted.
That's awesome. And
Yeah, we actually got it running and driving. Huh?
It's a real Mopar quadrijet too, right?
It's a Mopar quadrijet.
And I'll do the thing that Polito likes that I do here.
Mr. Wilburn.
Ooh.
Look at that.
Yeah, buddy. Looks like a race car under there now.
Yeah. Dude, we had to like custom make everything. Yeah. And it's time consuming.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this party started. Don't forget every Wednesday night Tech Talk Live is sponsored by WAF Racing. So go over there and give them a thumbs up. And Colleen's already put up the link so that you can go over there and check out their channel or buy some parts.
Yeah, and thank you, Colleen, for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're appreciated. Thank you.
All right. So to kick it off, SSR Performance was here at 5:33, here to stir the pot. I think that's already happened. Colleen Tebow was here. Tim Smith, One-Eyed Cat, Bruce Coltgen, KS Skyhawk, Fab Race Mod Repeat, Slant Daily Garage, Miss Cat G, Racer Ray, Clayton's Toolbox, Big Block 402, Kerosene Cucumbers, Lumpy Wi-Fi B, One-Eyed Cat is here, Matthew Ward, Dr. Go, Mr. John Wilburn is in the chat, lurking. Yeah. Hippie Miller, John Murphy, Greg Roberts is here. Let the games begin because I'm sure he approves the video. Let's see. Wheelie King is here. Michael Schmidt is here. Big Block 402. And Bigfoot's and Mopar Mark is here. And then Indecisive Garage right at the bottom. So we're kicking the Wednesday night off strong with, if you didn't notice, SSR Performance dropped a video slightly right before this. So
I think that was intentional.
Oh, I'm sure it was intentional.
Maybe
catch everybody's attention, but that's fine. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room. Maybe we'll start off with some tech talk first, but I don't see anything.
I got a couple. So
John Murphy's asking, is Edelbrock making anything for the 6.4 Hemi?
I think this is a better one that's on the screen.
Yeah, right.
Love seeing two grown men confidently and proudly sharing time in the bedroom. Good for you. Yeah. Well, this is where my studio is in my bedroom. So
right. That's for the OnlyFans, you know what I mean? Help with the race car project, right?
John and I were making content
all day and some with the van.
Right.
Yep.
Is Edelbrock making anything for the 6.4 Hemi? Yes. Actually, we make so much stuff. I don't even know how to list it all. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff there. Go check it out. That's all I can tell you. Dr. Go says he's been watching the van 318 work. I love it. I've been watching all your shorts, John. I think they're awesome.
It's good stuff.
Dude, the hardest part about that deal was this is like 195,000 miles on the engine.
It quit working
when the odometer stopped working.
So who knows how many's on?
Right.
Wow.
And so when we tore it apart, it's no different than any other core engine that you would get out of the junkyard. It was bad. And we had to vacuum the engine off to get all the junk off of it first at the top before we could even pull the intake manifold.
Yeah.
And it still looked worse under the intake manifold than it did on top.
Which was just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't find the bolts for the intake. And when we finally did, some of them were so rusty where he's at there hammering like 13 and 14s on them until we could get them off.
Wow.
Yeah, the bolts were rusted off. Like it's bad. It's literally like a 40-year-old engine that's never been apart. So
for a core, it runs great.
Yeah, it doesn't do bad.
For a core.
Let's see. And then, we did get the intake manifold on it. We did find out some interesting things about Mopar specific gaskets for 318 and 273. There is a Felpro part number that you can buy that has the factory style steel shim intake manifold gaskets. And the very early 273, you said in 64, right?
I think it's the real early ones had water in that.
That they had water that heated the carburetor.
Felpro says it in their directions, and some did. The only ones I can think of that may have.
So what we did was it has a small like orifice plate, and you're supposed to put a regular one where water flows across, and then it has a small little hole drilled in the other one, an 1/8-inch hole, to regulate the water flow across, right? And so we ended up buying essentially 2 sets of those gaskets to get the one with the hole in the center, and then pop riveted the hole and filled in the exhaust crossover. And we got the intake manifold on. The Quadrajet, we put it on and started it up. It fired up. It just didn't want to continue to run as it started up. And we didn't have a choke or anything. Nothing's adjusted yet, right? So we had the choke I had the choke plate pretty much twisted all the way to the right to where it just stayed open all the time.
Yeah.
And it started up. And it would run for a couple of seconds and die. So what we did was we ended up I fattened it up. It ran just to get it running so we could get the timing initially set and everything. But once we got it kind of dialed in, it was pulling some serious vacuum at idle.
Yep.
And it's got lots and lots of detonation. And John said he put the cam in. He set it up 4 degrees advanced this go round. So I think it might have too much cam advance in it. We'll just back the timing off, but I think maybe the balancer slipped because it only runs okay at like 0.
You know what? Just check. You can just put a screwdriver in there and then just kind of come up with it and then just kind of look at where the balancer's at. You'll know if it's slipped because it'll be way, way off.
Okay.
That's just a quick way to check
We'll
it.
check it out, but it does run pretty good with the timing back way down, which doesn't make any sense. But I'm thinking it may either have the balancer has slipped or it does have the cam too far advanced, right? And John did say he advanced at 4 degrees when he put the new timing chain
It
on.
had this problem before, though.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the balancer is way off. That's what I'm thinking. But we haven't had time to screw with it because we kept trying to get it dialed in and it wasn't making any sense. And we had to okay, let's make the numbers on the balancer irrelevant. Let's just start backing it down until it doesn't spark knock. And who cares what the number is, at that point, and see if we can get the carburetor adjusted to the engine to get it drivable. And, because we noticed even at 5 degrees of advance, it was hard to start. So I'm thinking that balancer is off.
Yeah. Like I said, a simple screwdriver in there, just get a long skinny one. And because it where the spark plug is at, it's easy. And you'll come up and then right when it gets to the top, before it starts to come down, if it's already past that, it definitely slipped. And just, you have to change it. Or just once you get it close, just make a mark right there in that general vicinity, set the timing that way. It'll be fine. It'll be close enough.
Okay. Well, we'll play with. We haven't had really any time with. We just got it running at about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
it's been running now.
Yeah, we went around the block. There's no leaks. It regulates temperature. Everything's fine.
Everything is great with that.
I can adjust the carburetor, and it makes a difference. So the carburetor is relatively close. You do half a turn on the idle mixture screw, and the vacuum number will drop off. So it's really close to where it needs to be.
I had a half a dozen problems, and now I've got one.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have that solved before he leaves.
It's good.
Just to have one problem is not so bad, right?
That's right.
So Wheelie King is saying, Shane, when are the Mopar DLC lifters going to be easy to buy? Here's the thing is that we just got a massive shipment in, and they're actually going through QC right now. That's a little insider stuff. No one's going to tell you that, but I did see them today. I was in quality control because I have some other stuff that's coming out, and I was inspecting some of those. So now once they pass and everything goes through, you figure in a couple weeks it takes for all that stuff to go through packaging and so on and so forth. I will have more information next week for you, but I'm just telling you right now, we did get a massive shipment in for those things. Massive.
All right. So, and SSR Performance sent us $19.99. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Like I said, it just keeps the lights on. That we say that every time, but it doesn't really. I mean, most of actually all the money that comes in pretty much goes right back to StreamYard and us doing the live here, right? We're not doing it for any money.
And all this stuff I keep track of, and that just pays for stuff like little maintenance things that we have to do, and also do trophies and so on and so forth for the Triple Crown and whatnot. So that's what it really goes to.
I think it's safe to say all three of us, we do this for the outcome, not the income.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right?
Because if it was for the income, there's not much.
I'd have been gone a long time ago, right? Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So We should have a video coming out really shortly, like within the next day or two, of John's van running ideally.
Yeah.
And it will be, I don't know about tire shredding because somebody was asking for burnouts, but it will be drivable and it will be way better than was before.
It fires right up, it drives, it comes off idle, it stops, it idles,
it doesn't smoke.
Better than it doesn't smoke. All that's great. Got good vacuum, all of that. I just don't know what the situation is, time and detonation, but everything is great. And like I said, we fixed a bunch of stuff. Like the China rail gaskets were in the valley.
And who knows how long they've been there.
Yeah, they were in the
valley. There was engine oil running out of the engine as he parked in my driveway, just running down the bell housing because there was no gasket in there whatsoever.
We fixed a bunch of leaks, cleaned a bunch of stuff. It's made a lot of improvements.
Yeah, it's coming along. So, okay.
We'll go through a couple of these things real quick.
And our linkages are adjustable now, so we can get everything perfect. So normally with the van, you got a whole bunch of slop. Yeah. These are perfect. We can get it set to the stop at throttle pressure. So anyway, we made it better than it could have been.
And we did finally find a picture of a Dodge truck with a 360 with a quadrojet on it, and we could see what the linkage was supposed to look like. So it literally is what we had, but it was longer on some and shorter on others, right? Mm-hmm. So we ended up having to make the stuff so that it worked. And it's pretty neat what we did. Like, the van has a steel rod instead of a cable.
Yeah.
It has a shaft, right? A throttle shaft. And we've measured it, and it's 5/16.
You can look at our custom adjustable throttle pressure linkage there.
Look at that. That looks awesome.
We have a adjustable. It's a bell crank style hard linkage on a van that comes from the front on a crank, and that's what we came up with. And it's pretty trick. It's pretty trick.
Yeah,
we used a bolt and a nut for a parallel spacer, and then clamped this thing on a piece of channel, and cut it and put 2 inches in the middle. And so it's perfectly adjustable, so you can tune the.
And then we found out the rod for the linkage was 5/16, so we threaded it and then put a barrel nut on it and made it adjustable with lock nuts on the end of it, right? So you could lock it down to the perfect length that you wanted. So,
I'm gonna grab this one real quick, and then we can kind of get going. Tech advancing to cam degrees. Does that mean that the TDC and the balancer would be now 4 degrees advanced? No. Because that is in line with the actual piston and the rod. The only thing that cam does is that moves the cam timing per the piston going up and down, the true TDC. So it doesn't do anything to that. The only thing that would be doing is if you didn't move the distributor, is that would actually move the timing as far as the timing of it, the ignition timing, but it's not going to move the keyway on there is what it's not going to do.
Yeah, it's just the timing events with the camshaft are advanced by 4 degrees.
Yep, that's it. And that just makes it just moves the power down by about 250. It really makes different, on engines, but 250 RPM, usually 300 RPM. It just moves that power down just slightly. Had a tech question on DLC lifters. Did they supersede the number of the Chevy lifters? Bought a set from a local shop, but it had different numbers than on the website. I don't know about part numbers, unfortunately, and I'm sorry. I really don't. I just know about the parts. I don't keep up with the part numbers. It seems like they don't make any sense. So if you send me the part numbers, spolito@edelbrock.com, I will take a look at it and I'll tell you what I find. How about that? That's the best I can do for you.
Michael Schmidt has tech continued to advance the cam. Does that just move the torque curves? And that's exactly what Shane just said. It just moves the power band 250 RPM either way, depending on which way you advance or retard.
Yeah, ish. That's usually ish. That's about for most engines. Race engines, it makes it different, but on like one his 318, that's really kind of what it's going to do. And it really all it does is it makes the power into a more usable area. And if you have to advance the cam that much, it means you probably got too big of a camshaft. Is usually what it means. And that's why I've always gone with the smaller cam than what people want, because it just makes it more torque and it gives you more fun out of the engine.
So Dr. Go saying, now I'm a little scared because my 45-year-old 318 has never been apart. Scary to think I could have a tar pit in there. I think, John's van is kind of a unique situation because you can tell the first owner took care of it. It probably had very frequent oil changes.
That was my aunt. She bought it new and the service was immaculate.
The second owner literally shit on the thing, right?
Just
And
bad.
like it probably had the most infrequent oil changes, and it was the cheapest oil on the shelf with the cheapest filter that you could buy. And I think that's what we're looking at is, you reap what you sow. And after 20 years of neglect and abuse, this is what you get. But I mean, let's face it, 40-year-old core engines all kind of look like that from the inside. I mean, I've taken every Buick core engine I get to go through all looks like that.
Yep.
It's just they always look bad. The only thing I've ever taken apart that was actually pretty decent was I bought a 302 Ford that they had used. It was about 2006, I guess, 2007, and it was a 5 to 10-year-old engine. It was actually 5 to 6-year-old engine at that time, and it had been used synthetic oil the whole time. And when I took it apart, it didn't have the scunginess, but everything was yellow that I couldn't get it off. Like it is the yellowness and the oil kind of would get into the pores.
Yeah.
But
Dakota saying he bought a used cam and lifters for his train, $79 for 218 at 50, 110. I'll say so far he's $279 into his 351M C6 powertrain. I think that's awesome, dude. And Greg Roberts is saying I'd like to see maybe the Triple Crown class eventually use the Edelbrock only carbs in the class. I think that'd be pretty awesome. The point of the class is that people can use what they have laying around. That was the whole idea of the class, for real, is that way you could just run what you have, as long as you match these 9 pounds per cubic inch type of deal. Did you want to get? Yeah, we're kind of at the bottom here. Do you want to?
Yeah. Well, so let's go ahead and just address the elephant in the room, because this question actually it touches on some of the things that were actually brought up in Big James' video from SSR Performance today.
Oh, okay. More video poke. His poke.
Huh?
He was poking up. He was.
I know. And that was I think that was kind of the point. I mean, if you don't know, I'll be 100% honest here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if James is being serious or he's busting my balls again. I can't tell anymore between the two.
Mm-hmm. But I will tell you that 100%, nobody else wrote the rules except for Dallas and I. That is it. That is 100% the truth.
Right. And I want to be 100% transparent and upfront about all this. I'll answer all the questions. But I know that right now it seems like my credibility is kind of just in the toilet. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like that part, but it is what it is. This is a live show here that we're doing,
yep.
And it's easy to be asked a question that you don't have the answer to right in front of your face.
That's right.
Right, and so it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I'll answer any question. I have nothing to dodge. Nobody's palms are getting greased. Nobody's getting rules written based around their car. I'll tell you right now, the two people that really give me the most grief about the Triple Crown rules is Big James and Andrew Nelson. And Andrew did have nothing to do with writing the rules. He brought up some points that were very valid, right? Because we're running a weight to cubic inch class. Mm-hmm. Originally, explain to you how it started off, the whole class. The whole class is technically written around the Rusty Nova. Okay.
For you, it was a Rusty Nova. For me, right. It was like Dust Devil Garage. For me,
it's literally like what we did was we tried to look at what was there at the No Name Nationals and go right down the middle of it, mm-hmm. right, and build a class where just about every car could fit in the class, and you could actually have a heads-up class that would replace the 28-10-5, which, in my opinion, jumped the shark about 2024. Okay. And we talked to John about it, and it was like, you know what? The 28-10-5, we're going to get a bunch of people in here that really don't do a lot of YouTube.
Don't care.
The YouTube isn't their thing. And that was getting away from what our community really was about.
Yes.
Right. So we wanted to steer it back to where our community was pretty much set forth right in the middle of all the classes that we had. the opportunity to run. And I know
one more thing too, without a crazy bunch of regulations, like as far as safety equipment and SFIs and all that.
That was a big one too, was
big one.
To try to keep the cars from having to have all of the roll cages and the seatbelt rules and the helmet stuff, and keep the cost low. And could be something that, if you walk down the pits, just about anyone could literally just jump in, right? Well, so we ran it the first year, and the big one was what we noticed was very lopsided. First and foremost, I'll address the carburetor rule that, like I said from the beginning, Shane and I are on the same page about this, right? But there's certain things that he wanted that I didn't like, and there's things that I wanted that he didn't like, okay? But we came to an agreement, and the only people that wrote the rules was he and I. I had no intention. I'll tell you why it took so long to write the rules. And this is going to sound bad maybe on my part. I don't know. I had a lot of personal shit and emotional shit to deal with where I didn't give a fuck about the rules. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't give a fuck about this class. I didn't give a fuck about the race. I didn't give a fuck about anybody else on the other end of the screen. I didn't care. And I didn't want to write the rules because I didn't feel like it. And so I sat on them. And that's Shane and I would talk about him every morning. Mm-hmm. He calls me every morning to talk about just life while he's on his way to work. And we would talk about him every morning and come up with stuff. And, Andrew Nelson had brought up a good point when we were talking one time on a chat here. I believe it was in our lives.
It was in live. Yep.
He brought up a point. If you're running weight to cubic inch, what does it matter about like the make the car and stuff like that? And it really, that makes sense. But we didn't want to get so far away from
real cars.
Yeah, the simple car you could go buy and compete in the class. And then we didn't want the simple car to be pushed out.
But it's a weight to cubic inch, so it doesn't matter. And we wanted, the whole idea is we loved how many people showed up the first year, but the reason why there were some of the rule changes, we wanted to open up the field to more people that could bring cars in that they had sitting around. The whole idea is this way, if you could run what you already have. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, I forget what I would, where I was at with that whole thing, but I had. That's why the rules took so long, is I didn't want to write them, and I didn't feel like writing them, and so I didn't write them. And I figured no one was really pressing. But when you started pressing me about it, it was like, I need to get off my ass and write something here. And usually Shane and I will do 2, 3, 4 revisions, and then by the time we get through our 3rd or 4th revision, I actually send them to John to look at before we send them out, like to see if there's just as somebody. Like, I'll tell you something I learned a long time ago. When you're really close into something and you see it right on a daily basis, and it's the thing that you're thinking about the most, you overlook the little things, right?
Or the big things.
Well, and it could be a big thing. You just might not see it because you're so close to it. So you want a different perspective on it, that somebody doesn't have a stake in the game, that can understand what you've written, and that where there could be glaring errors or things that were problems, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but really, the 3 of us were really the only people that saw the rules.
Yep.
No one else saw them. I guess that's really where it was at. Now, to insinuate, that the rules were written around that Studebaker.
No,
I can promise you that's not true.
I know that for a fact that it's not. But I mean, I could see where you get to that point because you made it in the video. You made that point. So you brought that up.
So this relates to that. And first of all, I just want to thank Levi and Big James, because Levi said that the rule change or not, the Levi family will be there whether on foot or 4-wheeler. And Big James says same here. He only missed the one that was the day he got married, and he would have been there. He looks forward to it every year. And I really appreciate that, guys. So just realize we appreciate that tremendously. But it's the Triple Crown thing is always going to be a work in progress. We do this for you. I I encourage the Nelsons and anybody else in Triple Crown, if you want to email us like your dream rules just to see them, so anybody's welcome. It doesn't mean anything will change, but that way it's just input. So we can talk about it between the end of the event and Thanksgiving in that time period. We'll look at anything. Doesn't mean it'll be a go. It just means you're always welcome to just email us that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there's any one person who gets what he wants or what it's not like that.
No. And like I said, the only time we ever changed anything was to open the rules. In fact, I was such a hard ass on some of these rules. Like I was just like hell bent. I wanted streetcars. I wanted this. And Dallas talked me into, but it showed me why this was. And I was so laser focused on making this for people, that would have these cars. I neglected to look back and see that I was taking some cars out of it by making it so razor focused. And then that's why I was like, okay, I see exactly what you're trying to do. If someone's got this car, then that way they can run it and there'll be more people for this.
And I'll address one thing that, like we really, Shane and I argued about this. Okay. We don't argue a lot.
No.
And it was the 4150 weight break deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't want the 4150 weight break because to me, it makes no real sense. But if you look at it from the bigger picture, I can see his point, and that's why I caved. Okay. The reason why originally there was a weight break for him was because you could potentially have a barrel carburetor setup,
a tunnel ram,
and right, and that should have the biggest penalty for because it has the biggest potential.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to being fast. The thing was, we only had one car with a tunnel ram last year, and it was a 273 powered Barracuda. And that car was nowhere near competitive because, let's face it, it was all outmotored. I mean, that car only had 273 cubic inch engine, and it was built around the D-Dart platform, which came out around that same time those cars were made, 64, 65. And so Shane wanted to promote more tunnel rams and multi-carb setups.
Yes.
And to do that, we took away the weight break for the 4150 so people would move up to a multi-carb setup.
Yes.
And then when the multi-carb started running away with it, we could wrangle in the rules was kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see it from a standpoint where he was at because he was giving away like car parts, which could include carburetors for winning of the class, right? And it's like, oh, you know what? I understand that now. All right, and nobody had ran away with it with having multi-carburetors, and it wasn't focused specifically around the SSR cars.
No, not at all.
Slow them down at all. The whole thing was it just worked out the way that it worked out because we didn't write down every combination for every individual car, right? It was just what makes sense and what we would like to see. And we would like to see more people try multi-carb setups because I think it's only going to make the class.
That's right.
Grow, be more interesting. You get outside your bubble, and then, it makes you better at what you are. Mm-hmm. But we weren't going to do anything until we saw that the multi-carb setups were going to run away with the class. And at that point, we hadn't seen that. So there was like, you know what? You're right. It's only the second year. Let's just go ahead and see what happens now and see if we can get some multi-carb deals in there. And really, that was where the carburetor rule came from. It had nothing to do with who had what. It really was, we were trying to promote multiple carbs in the class. And we didn't want to come out and just say, that's what we're doing, right? But now I figure it's probably worthwhile because, like I said, I want to be 100% transparent.
Yeah, and also too, the one that I didn't want to do is the Lexan windows or anything like that, because I wanted the glass, because that's even in the Cookie Monster, that's a full steel, full glass car, and that's what I like. And I understand his point that James made in the video, that's why I like the class. But if it's 9 pounds per cubic inch and you're the weight, what does it matter if it has Lexan windows or glass windows, or if it's got a fiberglass door, as long as it weighs the correct amount of weight And I like what Dallas added with the 100 pounds of ballast. That way you can only add 100 pounds of ballast. So that way
was
you
what I
can't
was
make it
right.
you can't make it all Lexan and then put all the weight in the back. That was the whole idea.
That's what I was trying to do as the limiting factor, because fiberglass pieces, you could literally just take everything off the front and it has nothing, no weight up front, and then put it all in the rear.
Exactly.
And that's what I always hated about the people that are the halves, because that's how I race. I look at it like I grew up as a have-not. Okay, I had have-not my whole life.
Me too.
I watched everybody else race, and then I noticed there's a big disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And that's why I like the guys like SSR Performance, because they think their way around the problem. And that's what real class racers do, right? They don't have the money to go out and buy a full fiberglass car or a tube chassis car. They're busy raising families and trying to make house payments and make ends meet with groceries. The last thing they need to do is be forced to go buy a bunch of stuff to be competitive in the class. And if you keep it to where the weight box can only have 100 pounds in it, man, it doesn't really benefit you to throw a bunch of fiberglass at stuff. And that's what I was trying to keep from doing.
I'll tell you how thrifty Dallas is. I'm surprised he can't stretch a penny till he makes copper wire. he lives the thrifty life. He doesn't make rules that way. It's cool. I love it.
And here's the thing: the fastest car had a single 650 CFM carb on it. It was actually a VRS, but still, you think about it, that a 650 was not considered a race carburetor back in the day. 750 was basically your entry level race car, your double pumper 750. This was a 650, so it can be done with a 4-barrel, but we just want to take away that added value. Let's put it that way. We want to just.
We wanted to open it up to where people could bring more cars. And we couldn't see the value in, we wanted the cars to be street drivable. We wanted them, it didn't have to be street driven. Shane wanted to drive them to Lambert's and back.
If you didn't drive, then you wouldn't be in the class. That's actually what I was
like, man, some of these are just legit race cars, and you're going to eliminate people just for that purpose, right?
Don't care. We got into an argument about that one.
But you also eliminate people who have to tag them, title them, and all that.
Or you can't because
in Virginia,
right. So we thought, okay, if they're not going to drive them, let's allow some of the gasserish style, cars to be able to get in the class.
But that was for a safety thing, and here's why.
It wasn't just necessarily safety, it was cost, right?
Cost, but for me, I was looking at it a safety way, because you were looking at it cost. For me, it was safety, because if someone had, let's just say, a Studebaker, I'm just going to use that one, right? Where can you go out and get parts for the Studebaker readily available? You're not. So you're going to have this worn out front end, and you're going to try to make something work. But if you put on a straight axle underneath there, at least we have a straight axle. This is what you can run, but you have to put it in the same location, and it would have to be the same track width. You couldn't stretch it out or bring it back.
When we started, the idea was the orphans. I was thinking the heyday of the gassers, right? I was looking at Henry J's. I was looking at Kaiser's. I was all the stuff that fits in that little bubble, that small window of 65, 66, 67. Those cars, a lot of them were orphaned and just left for dead, right? And then you couldn't, the way our rules were written, they had to have that front suspension on it. And it's like, dude, you can't even go buy stuff for this thing.
He's saying, well, we don't allow factory aluminum blocks because of money restrictions, but letting a full fiberglass car is basically the same thing or worse. I can hide weight wherever, won't stop anyone. Absolutely not, because we weigh the car in 4 corners. So if you weigh and you have an engine up front and it's beyond, say, 50% front and rear, I'm going to know you're messing with us, and you're not going to be able to run. I mean, that's literally what it is. Do you think we're weighing it in the 4 corners for our amusement? No, there's a reason for that. I'm looking at your weight biased.
This is something that I would like to address. Hold on a second. Before I answer this, I want to read what I got for the rules, but I don't think you're allowed to have a full fiberglass car.
No, but I guess what he's saying is he's going beyond it. Eventually it's going to be to this, but I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now.
He's right.
Was that?
I guess he's right because it is beyond, right? If you're
Yeah.
allowed to do the full fiberglass car,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I can hide weight. But here's the thing is that like I was writing that stuff down look, there's times where I'm just doing stuff and I'm just smiling, you know, whatever, whatever. I'm looking at what you have. I literally am looking at what you're doing. I'm looking at percentages front and rear and side to side. Are you loading the front tire? Are you loading the rear tire? How are you loading this? And then when you pop the trunk, I'm looking in the trunk to see is there weight over there on that right rear. I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at what you're doing because the scales don't lie. The scales don't lie.
and the SSR performance says down at 720. We need to catch up a little bit. So it says, and I want to see what the comments are because I've been kind of blabbering without looking at the
Well,
comments.
this we're at 7.
I love you all and appreciate the hell out of what y'all do, but I'm always going to bust up. I know, and I can't quite tell when you're being facetious or when you're being serious.
I told Dallas I thought it was probably clickbait when I saw the thumbnail.
I'm actually way past that. I'm at
Real
733
video,
right now.
Kind of watch this video.
Yeah, I'm up on I'm keeping up because that way that what we're talking about could actually be here. And then he was saying that he would love to have done the cruise, was just busy changing a busted transmission. Agreed. And and Dallas said that too, is that what if they were testing and they had a problem or they don't get there, say on Thursday? Some people just can't afford to be there on Thursday for the drive. And I was like, okay, I can see that. And then we were talking about having a drive on Friday, like you do your testing and then you would have to drive to Lambert's or have some sort of point, take a picture of the car and it would drive back. That's what I was thinking. So that way they could be still class street cars. But then Dallas said it right. Well, what if they break or what if they have a problem that they can fix in the pits and they'll still be there on Saturday, but they didn't make the drive. So that's the reason why I backed off on that. But yeah, that was one thing I had.
Yeah. And James is saying here, from SSR Performance at 729 says, I love tunnel rams, just too much money to get it all set up versus a single plane and one double pumper. And I agree with that. I mean,
Yes.
if that was, we were talking about that originally, and Shane actually made a pretty decent point is when you put the tunnel ram on and two carburetors, that's extra weight they're having to carry anyway. Right.
That's right.
So
In the
but
wrong
it's
spot.
not much compared to, you know, like the brake that they're getting. I don't think, but nobody's really ran away with it at all. And, you know, I think that's when they start throwing rules in there is when people run away with it. We were just trying to open it up and make it broader. And like I said, you look at the cars in the pits and we went right down the middle.
Yep.
And we had to look at what our YouTube community would get, right? And we started, Shane and I were talking about it. The orphan car is an easy pickings for our community because nobody else builds the stuff anymore. You have to do a lot of fabrication, modification, and let's face it, that's our community. I mean, you buy the cheapest thing and build what you can.
When Dallas was talking to me about it, the first thing I thought of is that if someone was say in the No Name 500 or doing that, and I'm going to run the Triple Crown, I have this orphan car, and I have to fabricate everything to go into this car. Not only would that be awesome that he would have great content, he would be able to make shorts every single day, and he would definitely get his 500 subs because people would want to watch what he was actually doing. So he would have a lot of people coming to his and watching how he's building his engine and making sure that that he's following the rules because everything would be there. So I thought it would be a kind of a good thing, and I saw it from that point of view.
Yeah. And what's that?
Buick Smith.
Right here.
Yeah.
At 7:32, he says, don't mean to take away from what you guys are talking about, but who else thinks John looks like a bit like a bigger version of Wyatt?
Oh.
Racer Race says right below that, wasn't the rule to drive to Lambert's? We had intended to do that, right? And then what happened really was that whole issue came up where James and James broke their training. Well, okay. SSR Performance broke their transmission. And if the rule was they had to drive to Lambert's, you were eliminating that car just because they had a part failure, right? And I especially if you work all season to get there, it kind of sucks to kick somebody to the curb over something that's virtually trivial.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we kind of looked at it, was like, all right, you know what? I don't want to throw these guys out for the whole weekend because they didn't make the drive to Lambert's. You know,
I'm going to jump down here to the bottom. So Bobby's saying, so is there a written rule on weight bias? No, there's not. But there is a rule saying that you can only have 100 pounds on box. So that means that if you're trying to hide weight, you will see it on the scales. And if you're saying, oh, I only have 100 pounds, but yet you have a 60-40, the wrong direction, we'll definitely know that it's the bias is wrong. It's just simple math. I thought it was the car had to be a certain number, no more than 100 pounds in weight box. It's exactly right. But if your bias is way wrong for that type of car, which these things were not 50-50 cars in the front to begin with, they were more 60 up front, 40 in the rear or thereabouts. Even if you set the engine back, it's not going to go all the way up. And then if you put 100 pounds in the back, you're not going to be beyond that 50-50. So you'll know. And then SSR says,
down out of a railroad tie.
yeah, and then SSR says no rules at all other than 9 pounds per cubic inch. False. It says right here, 100%, 100 pound weight box. That's exactly what it says. And Dallas is the one that came up with that, and I like that because that way, if you're hiding weight somewhere else, it'll be on the scale, and we'll see it.
I just didn't want somebody to build a ringer that was going to absolutely come and smash everyone. Let's face it. I mean, you win some parts for this race. Nobody got any kind of money there's no money moving around.
Yeah. Right?
So we're not rigging it for anyone to just specifically run away with the class. Most of them were just written to try to keep it somewhat fair across the board.
Yeah.
Where as many people from our community could participate, but well as not have the ringer car, right? See, the big thing is like, so Andrew Nelson beats me up a lot about he had wanted, I don't remember what it was, suspension rules for the rear of the car, and I'm like, no, it's got to be the factory suspension setup,
factory pickup points, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, and I could see why he wanted to just show up with a car that he didn't have to build. I mean, they're already building like 3 cars in the channel now.
Yeah.
So,
and don't they have a fleet? I mean, John, were you there? Have you seen them?
They have a lot of cars.
Yes. So, and none of them are considered, I would say, factory in the rear end. So, that's why I said on the last thing is that they should build a car for this, not use what they have. They should build a car for this and then come out and run it. I think that would be fun. But it would have to fit the rules. They would follow the same rules as everybody else.
So, we run our cars heavy in the front on purpose. Wheelies are expensive. Yeah, they're hard on parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can believe that. Bobby Frizzell says, but if you have a complete fiberglass front end and still meet the weight of the bias would be way off. It would be.
Did we have tilt front ends allowed it? I don't think it was.
No, we had I don't know exactly. Let me pull up the rules. I was going to pull them up earlier and I stopped, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm dumb.
Because we got jabbing. We got talking about car stuff before we actually started talking about car stuff for 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So, body factory OEM rear wheel drive car truck, van body style allowed with OEM wheelbase plus or minus 1, original location firewall mandatory, fiberglass or aluminum hood. Deck lid, fenders, and bumpers are allowed and must represent an OEM look. All OEM windows must be installed and present, but can be Lexan for the sake of safety.
But it doesn't say tilt front end.
No, it doesn't say tilt front end at all. And it has to represent an OEM look, right? Which, see, okay, if you guys didn't know, like, I hate writing rules. I really do hate writing rules, and I hate nitpicking them like this. When you say that it must represent an OEM look, it's then kind of up to the interpretation of the tech guy, right?
Yeah.
And when you leave them gray like that, it leaves the racers some slop to make things work or not work. Okay? You're reading between the lines and creating something that fits in the gray area. I don't like having a lot of rules. I don't like having a lot of tech. I don't like having all of the stuff that's, I feel some of the stuff is a shakedown, right? especially even to this day, I'll die on this hill. The seatbelt SFI seatbelt thing is a fucking trash rule. Right?
Garbage. It's ridiculous.
It is literally a shakedown because you're telling me I could run virtually up to 641 with a factory 40-year-old seatbelt that's got rat shit on it, right?
Yeah.
But yet, if I go 100th faster, I got to have a belt that's teched every couple of years.
Or if I'm running 650, my old raggedy shit 40-year-old belts have got some tears in them, but I want to be a little safer just in case something happens. I change them to something, then I have to change them every 2 years.
Yeah, and that's where I think that's a shakedown thing.
Yeah.
And I could see their worst case scenario deal because they look at it like worst case scenario. But it wasn't up until like a year or two ago that the stock car guys even started doing it. And they are the ones that would leave the car out in the elements and get rained on during the week. Leaves in the cockpit and the whole 9 yards, and then show up with these belts that are absolutely destroyed by the sun. Greg Roberts says, I just wish I could run a 63 Nova with the bolt-on front end. It's not an orphan, but it's definitely a bastard. If you had one, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. I do know what you're talking about, the bolt-on front end. That was specifically why we only allowed – we were going to have a year cutoff, but the Nova, the Falcon Ranchero, and there was another car.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it
fell in that group, and we were like, dude, those would be the ringers. Nobody will build nothing else.
That's right.
Right? And so we were like, that was why we didn't go with the year cutoff. We ended up going with the orphan cutoff.
Yeah. Because we were talking about doing the year cutoff, and I believe it was at 62 or 63.
We were looking at 63, I think, was the cutoff.
Yeah, 63 was the cutoff, and we were looking at that, and then we started coming up, and then the next day I did a little research, and Dallas did some research too, and we're like, yeah, that's not going to fly because these cars would come in and they have these bolt-on.
And the Nova was like right up front because it literally has all of the makings to just wreck everyone, and nobody else could compete.
And then it'd be so light, you'd run the 26 by 9 tire or 8 tire, and then you just, you 2,700 pounds small cubic inch, you just run away with everything.
Let's see. Okay, Junkyard D says, how can you define hiding weight? What's to stop from putting a 1-ton farm truck bumper on an S10? Nothing. Like hiding weight. Okay, I'll tell you, but way back in the day, I've said this before on this live, Chuck Samuel used to run an El Camino in the NFCA. That El Camino used to run with the tailgate down. The tailgate down on a truck was kind of standard in drag racing, right? You didn't want the extra drag for the tailgate. Chuck Samuel poured lead into the tailgate. Like, I don't know if it was molten or it was shot, but he poured it into the tailgate, and it looked like a legit tailgate, but the damn thing weighed 250 pounds.
And you set it down.
Yeah, and then when you set it down, it's behind the axle, which is the fulcrum, right? And it gave him such a weight advantage for that El Camino. That's what we were trying to keep from happening. And that's where, like I said, I don't like to do all the policing rules. I don't like to have a tech list that's 4 hours long just for the Triple Crown. I don't. Yeah. I wanted to just show up, weight to cubic inch, make it easy, and then we just have fun. That's why there's no real big payout for it, because no one shows up to clean your clock and take your money and kick your puppy, as they used to call it, in the 28-10-5 class.
Yeah,
it happens. You get a payout, you get the sharks.
That's right. And they don't care anything about the content or anything. They're just there for the $1,000. That's all it was, Danny Boyd said, if you box your frame rails and then you can stuff lead you want inside there. The problem is, though, that's going to show up on the scale, because I already know what some of these cars are going to be. I grew up around Dodges and Chevrolets and S10s and drag cars. You kind of have an idea of how they're going to be set. You kind of look at the car and, okay, it's got no front bumper. Okay, it's got this, it's got that. I know that this thing's going to be right around here, but if you show up and, like I said, if it's beyond 50%, and that's not my number, but I'm just saying, then you're going to start looking at things, and I'm going to get underneath it, and I'm going to look at it because it's going to be up a little higher on those scales, and you're gonna see something. I mean, and the whole idea of this is so that we're not trying to catch you guys. We're just trying to make it so that way it's fun for everyone, and whatnot, and make it so that way you can run what you have, and then you get this right here, and it doesn't say that you can't run a tilt though.
Oh,
It does because it says factory like. That's not factory like, right?
Well, it has to be OEM appearance, right? So it's less up to the interpretation of the tech guy, and he's right. It is a gray area, and they could show up with technically a tilt front end as long as it looked OEM, right? And okay, I'm open to that. We can put that in the rules next year. No tilt front end, but okay, when it comes to class racing,
I'm one of the tech guys, and I won't allow it. So just if you show up with a tilt front end,
exactly. I mean, it's based upon our interpretation, so we have the opportunity to throw it out, right? Yeah. I don't like it. It doesn't look OEM. Did the factory car have a tilt front end? If it was a Corvette, yes, but otherwise, no. I don't know. I guess the easiest way to explain it in this situation is being the tech guy, I would say no. But in all actuality, just like you're pointing out, it could be interpreted that they could run a tilt front end, right? Now,
that's the one thing I didn't want. I told you that.
Right? These rules, I was trying to keep first of all, Shane and I, when we came up with the class, the first rule for us was the rules can't be any more than a page long.
That's right.
Right? And that's because who wants to race in a class where you got 16 pages of rules?
Yeah. Let me thumb through this here with section 1, page 10. Fuck.
And so we didn't try to needle dick it so much that we had multiple pages of rules. That was the one thing that we didn't want to do. We wanted to keep it all on one page of rules. I don't like having to have a bunch of rules because it makes it very hard for tech, and it makes it very complicated for you to meet the rules. It's probably, I would say a lot of that's probably on me, because it's not that I'm lazy. I just think it's wrong that I spent 3 hours in NHRA Tech. I ran super gas. I spent 3 hours. 3 hours. I missed 2 time runs in a 990 index class that I could not get. Like, I'd never ran in before to run super gas. They pulled every SFI number off my whole entire car because they'd never seen the car. They wanted to make sure the bell housing was good, the blanket, my gloves, the helmet, the whole 9 yards. And I got 1 time run to run a 990 index class. And I was like, man, if I ever do something like this, I am not going to make my racers wait in line think about if you're the third guy back. If it took me 3 hours, what about the guy behind? Right? He had to wait 3 hours for me to get through, and then he's got to go through it.
Yeah.
So where does it fall out? Where do you draw the line? And I was looking at the things that were big picture that really that I felt impacted what's wrong with racing today, right? And that because of that, I got these loosey-goosey rules that you can poke holes in all day long, right? But the real deal is, if we were to sit down and write 16 pages of rules, no one would run around in this fucking class.
No. It just wouldn't be fun. And we wanted to make it so that way you could interpret them, you could read between the lines, you could have some fun with it. But stupid stuff like this, yeah, it doesn't say tilt, but like Dallas said, we're the tech guys. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to allow a tilt front end because that's not what the car's for. That's what this is not for. It's for, a car that everyone's got it at No Name Nationals. Literally, you could drive right down the alley and they're all there.
And I'll explain something else too. When I was doing the AHRA, I would not race in anything that I did. Nothing. Right? Like, I wouldn't have a bracket race. I wouldn't do anything. I ran that thing for 5 years watching everybody else race and me salivate thinking about racing and not racing. And I did that because I felt it was immoral, right? If I ever won $1, everybody would question if the game was rigged. And so I thought, to just remove myself from it, I'll just not race. when the AHRA No Name Nationals started happening, it was like, man, I'm part of this community. And then when everything fell apart for me at home, John is the one that encouraged me, like, dude, yeah, I mean, why don't you just come race with us once a year? And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And now here it is. We're the tech guys. We're writing the rules. And you think I'd build a ringer and just show up with a ringer that fits around the rules. Well, then how immoral would that look, though, for me? I'd look pretty shitty if my car slid past the rules.
Well, see, from my perspective, I'm looking at it like this. What's the balance here? I really like having Dallas there as a participant and as a racer because he sets such a good example of somebody who gets stuff done, who builds things, useful info for you guys here. He shares. He's a sportsman. He does all of those things right and brings so much to the event as a participant. I really like to see that for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But
so Biofacel is saying that tilt front end doesn't have to be tilt. Fiberglass front end doesn't have to be tilt. Glass fenders, glass hood, etc., look stock, but all glass. Yeah, but then you still have all the inner workings of it. You would still have, everything else would still be there. But once again, your bias is going to be wrong. That's the whole thing. Is that
we don't have anything in the rules about the bias. See,
true.
what would happen is this:
you're going to be too light.
We're going to throw all these what ifs out there, and if someone shows up with the fiberglass front end the following year, there will probably be a rule in there saying you can't have a fiberglass front end.
Yeah, but then they're going to be too light. Here's the thing: is that if you have a fiberglass front end, let's just say you do this, you do everything here, and you're right, we don't have a white bias in it, but you can only have 100-pound, 100-pound box. And if you put a 100-pound box back there, but all of a sudden now magically the car still weighs 3,300 pounds, and then there's no weight up front because it's all fiberglass, but then there's 100 pounds in the back, you're going to know that there's a bunch of weight stuffed somewhere else. That means it's beyond the 100 pounds. So technically, we do kind of have a weight bias, but it's written as a 100-pound box.
I just hate these what if things, right? Because okay, let me tell you something that nobody's thought about, but it's a what if. Okay. What if someone shows up with a solid rocket booster on the car? It doesn't have another motor in it. So it's technically legal, right? Can they show up with a Jada rocket on the back?
A solid rocket booster is.
We don't have a rule against it.
Well, I know, but and look, I'm not getting.
I know, but see, that's where.
Hear me out on this one.
This is where you get 16 pages of rules, though.
You have an engine in the car. That's the engine is in the front. That is technically a motor, a solid rocket, something that's a solid, because once it's turned on, it cannot go back. It's not an engine, it's a motor. Then you have the engine up front. We only say one engine, right? You can only have one engine, but no one's going to do that. That's the whole point of it.
Right, exactly. But see, like, okay, we can take it. So, and I know that one's way out there, but I mean, that's the what if game you can play, right? Let's take something that's really more serious. Let's say somebody built a hybridized car and had an electric motor running off of a gas engine. Now, they only are allowed one gas engine, but now a whole set of wheels is powered by an electric motor that's not against the rules.
That's right.
Okay. That's the kind of dumb stuff that I would have to think up and dream up to put in a set of rules that to keep somebody from doing that. And since it's not in the rules, I can't just tell them no. And that's where you leave the leeway for the tech guy, and you have to trust your tech guy and say, no, you know what? This does not meet the intent of the class. And that I used to put in every single set of rules, because if somebody showed up with something that was like completely to defeat the intent of the class, like I said, the intent of the class is stated in the set of the rules, the head of it, right? It was for a cost-effective, enjoyable race class that anyone could participate in with a reasonable car. And if it doesn't meet that intent, we have the authority to say, nah, pack it up and leave, dude. And that's where it has to be reasonable. But I understand where it's like, when someone shows up with the fiberglass car, right, we can kick them to the curb.
Well, something I'll throw in there just real quick. When he says kick them to the curb, bear in mind, if your car does not pass tech for Triple Crown for any reason, but it still passes safety tech, you can still do anything else the No Name Nationals. You can do call-outs. You can get into brackets. You can do match racing with people.
Burnout competition.
Cruise to Lamberts. You can still do everything else.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're to the curb. You can still completely have a great weekend with your car.
So
Just say,
James saying, yeah, just letting you know, I was just getting a buzz about the class. It wasn't anything personal. Y'all said you had a while back you had thick skin. Yeah, no, we have thick skin. I guess what it is that we both are just kind of we've been beaten up about the rules by not just one, but everybody. There's two that are really crazy, but literally daily. It's a daily for me. I get texted daily about Triple Crown, about everything, and I know Dallas probably does, and it dominates my emails, dominates my feed, even at work at Espolito Edelbrock. I get a ton of Triple Crown stuff there. So it's not that it's not that we don't have thick skin. It's literally dominates our lives, literally about rules and weight and just how things work, and and the funny thing is that people think they're being slick, but I've already had that question 15 times before.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of catch up here.
Yeah,
Racing, wouldn't a tilt front be heavier than bolt on? Yes, it
Yeah.
probably would be, honestly, especially if it's a newer car. The tilt front it would be way heavier.
Yeah.
Greg Roberts says, "Laugh my ass off. I think the rules are good. Let's have fun and build this class." I agree. And it's like I'm having fun with it. That's where I have a hard time. I get kicked in the nuts daily over this class.
Me too.
And I can't tell what it's serious or not, because we're really just reading the chat. So, if it's sarcasm or condescending or, of that nature, you can't quite tell in a chat. It's just a written text, right? So you have to kind of understand the person when you read it.
Yeah.
Put it in context. So I have a pretty thick skin. We just wanted to clear the air that, like, hey man, I'm not trying to smoke and mirrors anybody here. We're not trying to build it for a ringer. As far as I know,
or any one person, and we're not trying to build rules so that way someone can come in. We want to.
I know Andrew Nelson was mad that we wouldn't change the rear suspension rules, and I don't think he's bringing the car.
Yeah, and I was a hard no. Everybody else is this way. Even my cars. Me and Dallas wrote these rules, and I even told Dallas, man, I'm writing rules that I can't even bring a car into, because every single one of my cars has something moved on the rear suspension, even Plan Z, because it was so rusted. I had to move it because there was nowhere. So that car can't run it. I don't have a single car that could run in this class. And I told Dallas, this is a class. This is my dream class. I have nothing to run in it. What can I put in it?
You don't have anything right now. It did. Unfortunately, Plan Z does not fit, and you would have to go backwards quite a bit to do that.
Yes. Yep.
SSR Performance says, I'm not going to have a weight bias box tech that. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think like I said, the rules were essentially written with, like Shane and I were talking about it in 2024. Was it 2024? Yeah. When all the 28-10-5 cars were there, and we were like, dude, we need to come up with a class that like pretty much goes right down the lanes of the no-name nationals and get as many cars as possible in there. It's a class for us. And
we were talking about in the middle of, sorry to interrupt you, but we was talking about it in the middle of 2024 about making a class that was something different, but because all the ringers showed up in 2024, that's the reason why we're like, dude, let's do this and let's make this happen. Because we wanted to make a class that was for like a heads up class that wasn't, these all out racers.
Yeah. Plymouth on Plywood says, anyone have a good source for solid rocket boosters? Asking for a friend. Buick Smith says, there is technically a rule against solid fuel gasoline only. And he's right.
I do. Yeah. But you and I made that video, remember, with the monkey bike? We put bottle rockets on the back.
We did.
And we propelled it with Dallas on there.
You said you were saying that you could feel it, right? You could feel the little bit of boost on it. You could actually feel it pushing the.
I felt it punch me in the back of the head.
The neighbors were
the rocket just went boom and just exploded. And it was like really serious explosion. It knocked the wind out of me and stuff. And
I was standing right behind it filming.
Yeah.
And Fab Race Mon Repeat. This is Chris Cox from Northeast Dragway. I used to work with them a lot, when I was doing the AHRA, and I prided myself. That was one of the character things that I felt was that I had to carry over from the Navy, because I noticed early on in the game, when you had a sanctioning body, there was only two types of people: crooks, and those were getting ripped off by the crooks. And I swore anything that I said was going to be a payout was the payout. I didn't pay a penny less. If I put money on top of something, I paid it. Regardless if it was bad for me or good for me, right?
Mhm.
And what I said, I stood by. And then if it was something I said I was going to do, like, I'm going to help you get a timing tower, I would bend over backwards to get a timing tower for him, right? But that is kind of one of my character flaws, because doing business, you can't give 99% of the truth up front. There's some things that you intentionally leave out so you're not committed to unless everything else goes well. And I was never that way. I'm literally too freaking honest and too upfront about stuff.
Yeah. You know, I actually have one here. This is actually a really good one right here. This is for you. We're gonna shift gears here away from
Okay.
Triple Crown, because I think we've got everything. So here's a good one right here. So, tech question: what are some ways I can get more positive caster on the front of a GM A body, aka GS El Camino, without changing suspension pickup points? Don't those have the two bolts that come out and you use shims, so you can literally use shims to move it back? Yep.
That's
So
how you do it right
stack
there.
shims. Yeah.
You shim them. They also have, I think,
Don't they have
offset
controls?
They have offset the bolts
Bolts. Yep.
that you can buy, like not the bolts that bolt
The
through, but
rod.
the long bolt.
Yeah,
It's
the rod
offset.
that goes through. Yeah, because I've done that before. Because I used to line cars. Is that you would stack shims, and that would bring it back like that for positive, or like Dallas says that they would have the rod. You change them out and would just move it back, so that way it'd be in the factory pickup point. But I try to run my car 7 to 8 degrees of caster, because that means when the car comes down, literally it wants to go straight. It at 7 to 8 degrees, it just wants to go. The more you can get it, even better at higher speed. Oh yeah. Once again, don't forget to go check out WAF Racing. He's the one that makes this all happen. So that way there's no commercials running on this one, because he's the one that pays for all the stuff. So go check him out.
Hey, so I guess I should probably clarify something here.
Sure.
When I said earlier that, like, I didn't give a fuck about people on the screen, stuff like that, at the time I didn't care. It wasn't the people in No Name Nationals or the community. It was just like I didn't care about anything. I really didn't care.
We all know what you meant,
That
dude.
just came from everything going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no. In fact, we know exactly what you meant. We both in 2023, and literally our lives were like flushed down the toilet. So
Well, I was in a funk for probably. I mean, I just started feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Recently. So.
Oh yeah. So here we go. Take on rules. Have the corner scales is fantastic. These can be used to help pair cars. Is there a reason simpler rules of weight to cube isn't used with the goal of making ratio cars compete? I think that's
like ratio cars compete. Well, so originally when we came up with this idea, there was technically 3 classes. There was like a 8, 9, and 10. I think was numbers that we were looking at, and that's why it is called the Triple Crown, because it was supposed to be 3 heads-up weight to cubic inch classes that just about anyone could compete in. We decided to start at the 9-pound because it encapsulated like many of the cars at the No Name Nationals, right? And that's really where we started at, and that's why,
Yeah. SSR saying, and technically there isn't a rule about having multiple motors, but there's a cubic inch limit. Actually, there are no motors allowed in Triple Crown at all, because we don't allow electric. It has to be a gasoline powered vehicle, which is only an engine. So yes, there is a rule. You cannot have any motors at all.
Yeah, and then SSR Performance says, if you have time, Dallas, give me the short sweep of how you ended up with the owner of the AHRA. So there was 2 things that happened, but technically it was like 3 probably that coincided. I had just went over 22 years in the Navy, I guess. And Shane and I were racing in that 10.5 in A class out in Southern California. And I decided I had originally built my car to run super gas 990 class. So NHRA was putting on an open up at Fontana. And I told Shane I was going to go run that class.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran it one time, just once. And they rule booked me to death out of the class or out of the track and then banned me from the track.
That was the most mad I've ever seen you, I think, is when you came back from that.
And it just so happens the guy that ran the AHRA prior to me was a guy named Rod Saint. And Rod did a really good job with the AHR. He actually tried to stand it back up and do some fantastic things with it. But the big problem was he had some crooked dudes working with him, and all of a sudden money's gone missing and payouts didn't happen, and it just got drugged down the toilet really fast. And Rod had found the rights to the association in 2008. And it just so happens that in about 2008 and a half, let's just say June, I stumbled upon the association. I wanted to build something from nothing because what had happened is I got stationed in Hawaii in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. And I took my race car out there. I'd spent a bunch of money shipping it out to Hawaii and my trailer and my truck. And I got out there, and shortly after I got out there, the track in Hawaii closed. Okay. And it was a dispute between the leasee and the landowner. And no one, and it was an NHRA track, no one would step in to save this track from going under. And I don't know, I know you guys have had the feeling where your local track closes, but let me put it into perspective for you about how it was for me. Each island over there has a track. And now I'm trapped on an island with no racetrack and no means of transporting it from one island to the next. You can't do that. It's what it is like interspecies relationship where they don't want to get bugs or animals transferred from one island to the next. So I was literally trapped on an island with a race car that I couldn't license and no place to race. And I felt that was very immoral for the sanctioning body to not come in and set some kind of agreeable situation between the leasee and the landowner. And it left 1 million people without a racetrack. And I thought, you know what? We got to do better. So I started searching up sanctioning bodies and what I could do. And I stumbled upon the AHRA. So I filed for the name. What just so happens, Rod Saint had filed for the name only about 6 months before me. And my lawyer contacted me and said, hey, this guy has already filed for the name. He owns the rights to it. So I contacted him and I said, hey, if you ever need some help, I'd love to help you with this and that. I want to see this go. Well, he didn't get back to me, and then all of a sudden his stuff blew up in his face. And it really was because of the people that he had trusted.
Yeah.
And so after I left Fontana, I was so livid that I could literally be thrown out of a drag race for being the guy that had the hardest time. I showed up at Super Gas, no throttle stops, no delay box, no trans brake, no nothing. I was foot braking Super Gas like they had done in 1981. Okay. But nobody had ever ran a car in 30 years that didn't have throttle stops and delay boxes and all that. Those guys did not know how to race against me. And they thought there was something wrong. This is rigged. And I mean, my first pass was like a 992. So I was holding 2/10, right? And these guys are holding 2,000s as a package, and I'm like holding 2/10 or 200s at least, I guess.
Yeah, 200s, yeah.
200s. And anyway, they had a driver's meeting, and everybody was literally trying to throw me out. They were like, if you got to have a dead bear throttle stop number. And then the older guys were like, no, it says if you have one, this is the model number you got to have. It doesn't say you have to have one. And by the time the day was over, I ended up having to run the brackets. They wouldn't allow me to run super gas. And then I came home and I told Shane, there's got to be a better way.
Yep.
And I was going to create an organization called the Sportsman's Drag Racing Association. And this guy, Rod Saint, had got his ass handed to him, and he owed a bunch of money. So he was like, hey, man, I'm assuming that's what it was for. I don't know, really. He just called me out of the blue and like, hey, would you still be interested in the AHRA? I'm like, yeah. So we struck a deal. And literally that was the very last conversation I ever had with my father, was that I asked him what he thought, I ought to do. And he was like, look, son, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. And if you need some help with that, I'll help you. And I thought, okay. So I called that guy and I struck the deal and everything was made and I transferred him money and I got paperwork saying that I owned the association. And that went when my dad died. And so when it took me a lot to put down the AHRA after this divorce was going on, because that was the promise I made to my dad the last time I ever talked to the guy. So I was willing to kill myself to make it go. And I figured, okay, but I had COVID to contend with and my wife running around on me and my life falling apart and running out of money and living in my truck. So I kind of just put it on the back burner for now.
Yeah. We're going to move on to this one right here. It says, well, here's another tech. What would the alignment specs be for a street strip rig more caster than stock? Okay. Now, once again, this is a live show, so I don't have it here in front of me, but I tend to have 7 or more if you can. Now, when it comes to that would be caster. Now, on the camber, typically when it's riding down the track, I try to get them nearly as straight as possible. And as far as toe in, once again, I don't have the information here from me, but if it's a front steer, I run them differently than if it's a rear steer, because when it loads, it's going to load slightly different on how it loads and toes in. Also, too, when you hit the brakes and that car stopping, it's going to want to toe out. So depending if it's front steer or rear steer, it's going to act differently. But I would try to put, for me, I would try to be at least 7 or more on the caster. I would try to be at least maybe 1 degree of camber in just slightly, at least when you're down there. But when you're going down the track, try to make them as straight as possible, because the whole idea of drag racing is less resistance. But a toe in on them is slightly good for control, because when it's going under power, they're going to come back is what's going to happen. What about GMs? Are they about the same way too?
I don't know the remit.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you jack up your car a couple inches in the front end when
Yeah.
you try to set your cross toe?
Yeah. So what I do is I run it on the bump stop up. So I set it there, and then for my bump steer is I go up with it, and then and the bump steer is really for the toe. And since I have plates on it and I have two tape measures, I'll go all the way from bump stop up to basically bump stop down, and then I push down on the car. I'll actually put weight on the car like you're hitting the brakes. And technically, it'll come in, so it's gonna kind of do this number as it goes through its travel. So typically, when you come back up and you're on the bump stops, what's that?
Yeah, you try to split the difference on that.
Yeah, you're trying to split the difference. And the idea is I try to have it under, I know this sounds like a lot, but sometimes this is what you got, but I try to stay under 1/8 of an inch of toe from beginning to the end. Some cars can't, but some cars you can even get it to 1/16 of an inch between up and down. So there is no more bump steer. On the Cookie Monster, I've got it to under 1/16. It took me forever to get that.
The Mopars are notoriously bad for the bump steer.
Yes, but I changed the whole front end, so it's got front steer now with a rack, which helps out considerably. Plus, it gets rid of that when the car comes up and hits the ground, it doesn't get that
The wobble.
tire shake. Yeah,
That's your bump steer.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, that whole range of travel, you're trying to split the difference between the whole entire range of travel. The other thing is the toe is epically important on a drag car
yes,
because you want it to track straight as possible without killing ET, right?
or hunting.
Yeah, yeah, because you already having a hard enough time, especially a car that's active. Like, say, it's actually probably more important on the car, like the SSR Performance Nova, than it is like on Shane's car because it's accelerating so quickly. There's very little weight on the front end. It's just tracking down hard in the back, right? And but when you have like it used to be very prevalent on the stock Eliminator cars because the weight would transfer and then shift back to the front.
Yes.
And that's where you would get in trouble if you got the toe all wrong because it would literally dart. And that's when you see them dart is when the weight is shifting back to the front end and the geometry is changing.
Yeah. I noticed that it was a lot harder when I had the 3-speed in my car. It was much harder to control the suspension. When I went to the Glide, it literally made it like you can just drive down with a couple fingers. You're just driving down the track because it loads up and then just stays there because it's constantly on the converter the whole way. So it's really simple. He's saying, okay, thanks. Factory specs is a -1 to half a degree. That's you would, yeah, you definitely.
Oh, he said the alignment shop has as many shims in it as is only 1.6.
Wondering if those bars consider changing the pickup points. No, because the pickup points are on the frame. So those are
what's happened is that car's probably been hit and those
Yes.
pickup points have been shifted.
Yep.
Or the frame is rusted.
Mhm.
That's the only other things that it can be. But I'll bet you it's that car's been hit.
What kind of car is this car again?
I think this is his El Camino, like 64, 65 El Camino.
Yeah.
It may be 66 or 7, but it's an A-body GM. And they're very similar to like the G-bodies. The G-bodies were real bad about because their frames were even flimsier, right?
Yeah.
But the A-body was the same way. If you tagged them on the wheel up there, generally it was pretty hard to get them back straight, and alignment was always a bitch. Because especially that right there with the shims where you run out of bolt. You can't put another shim in it.
So this one right here, this is actually going to be where I'm going to reference Wilburn's channel here because you're going to have Deke on that again, right? So Tech, what are valve stems required for front wheels? We got wheels and we only had to push in style stems. Can I buy in bolt-in stems? Just curious. Yeah, bolt-in stems is what you're going to have.
No, not on the front.
Not on the front.
No, not on the front. So the bolt-in stems stemmed from having remember the old Mickey Thompson tubes that had the screw-in tube?
Yes.
That's where that stemmed from. Was that right? You had to have a bolt-in stem so it didn't tear it off, right? On the rear. On the front, since it's not a drive wheel and it's not under power, it's not required to have a bolt-in stem.
That when I run when I run some of the NHRA tracks, if you're over a certain mile an hour, like say 110 or 115.
Oh, I do think that there is a point. I think, well, that's probably one of those 999 rules.
Yeah.
The 10-999, where I do have bolt-in stems all the way around on my T-Bird, but the only time I've ever been checked for them is the rears, right? They want to make sure that it's got a screw-in stem so you can't tear the stem off and the tire go flat.
Yeah, I think it might be 120 maybe is what it is. If you're in 120 in the 8th mile or something else in the quarter, you have to have them all the way around. And that's one of the first things they're looking at in my car. When I went to Jackson, that's what they tried to get me on that. I was like, nah, those are screw-ins. They're just
and the Triple Crown, you're probably not going to have any issues. And that was the intent, was to keep all the rules set down and kind of like to keep you from having to buy the seat belts every year and the window net and all the crap that just starts to add up and nickel and dime you to death to where you just don't enjoy it.
Can you make heads or tails on this? I've read this a few times and I'm not.
I'm assuming this means that Andrew Nelson's fiberglass orphan car can run. He's not legal to run the class and he didn't want to modify the car, we pretty much were very steadfast on the suspension pickup point stuff, with the exception of the orphan car being able to run a gasser style straight axle. That was, but he did not want to revert the car back to the factory original rear suspension, I believe.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked to him since we were like, we had discussed this, I think, but that was it.
So Greg is saying, Dallas, I'm glad that you worked hard to save the HRA. The story was awesome, regardless of the outcome with the one that you made the attempt. That's a great story. Remember, we are here for you, brother. So
Yeah, well, thanks, Greg. I do appreciate it. The big one was like, I don't know. The way you have to look at it is like, I don't think it was a failure. I ended up having to quit because I couldn't see myself trying to sell a membership. And I was freaking crying all the time. I was literally crying all the time. Yeah. And so I don't look at it as a failure. I guess maybe I should, but I'm the one that chose to just kind of step away from it at the moment, try to get my family under control, figure out where I was going to live afterwards and how this was all going to work. And then I also didn't want her to remember that she could go take half of the HRA. So that didn't happen.
Yeah,
and
right.
So, yeah, now I'm still the whole owner, and we're going to do some stuff. I need to get in a good financial position to do that.
Yeah, and we Dallas and I have talked about some really, really, really cool stuff that would be awesome. That's different than everybody else, and I think it would bring some more people back to racing. For the financial costs, we're looking at it from that lens. So Bear Rose is saying, I'm running a straight axle and I'm pushing for 8 to 10 degrees caster. Perfect. I always try to get 7 or more. So when the leaves compress, they'll stay in range. Vid coming soon on the setup. That sounds awesome because I'm telling you, that's the more you lay it back, the better the car is. And when it gets out of control, it always wants to right itself. You don't even sometimes have to steer the car at that point. If you've got enough caster in it, it will correct itself. If it gets out, you just roll off the throttle. It'll right itself, and then you could just drive right on through it.
Let's see. Junkyard D right below that says, back to the elephant. I've seen someone with a custom torque arm setup. Is this allowable in the Triple Crown? Yes, you can have not a custom. You can have a torque arm if you're a Corvette,
Camaro,
a Firebird or Trans Am of that era, or a GNX, because they were the only ones that came that I know of factory with a torque arm setup.
And you have to have the factory pickup points for the torque arm and for whatever the leaf springs or whatever they were, the A arms or whatever it was.
Yeah, but custom torque arm setup, if your car didn't come factory with a torque arm, you can't modify your car by adding a torque arm, which in all actuality is a ladder bar.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any other C10 front brake setups that are lighter than the stock 71 GM disc? That's what I have on Candy Cane, and they're super heavy and drag more than I like. Oh, drag more than I like. Dude, at that point, go drum brakes.
I'll tell you what,
Can you run like a Camaro front end on one of those, something like that?
On one of those C10 trucks?
Something else crazy. Could you do like the front suspension, that whole subframe, like out of Crown Vic, like they do on the Fords? Could you put that on one of those?
You could if the frame rails, because that one's specifically dependent upon the width of the frame rails. If it's the same, you could put one of those on there really easy.
Never seen it done.
What I was thinking was, okay, there is a cheap way around this. Like Shane was saying, go to drum brakes. But if you could find yourself like a 1963 to 1970 Buick Riviera or Wildcat, they'll come with aluminum drums.
That's what I was getting at. Yep.
And they're a 5-on-5 bolt pattern, right? So you could literally swap that whole setup probably on your truck, and then it'll ditch all of that stuff and then keep an aluminum drum.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
James saying he's got a roll. I'm going to gap everyone come September. Hope everyone had a good evening. See you next week. All right. Take it easy.
And thanks for busting my balls.
Yeah. Busting both of our balls. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, he is the king in the room when it comes to Triple Crown. So yeah, we'll see him in September, and I'm hoping he does show up and I don't know if he's going to gap everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and grab this one.
Buick
I think
Smith
he's saying the
says
same thing.
it's a 5-bolt hub. You could put aluminum front drums from a Buick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're saying so the 66 to 68 Riviera, I think it goes all the way up through 70 that aluminum drums. And I think the Wildcat did too.
Yeah. Oh, Racer is saying that the Vega had a torque arm as well after 74. I didn't know that.
Oh, I did not know that either.
Mm-mm.
So that means the Vega and the Monza probably had a torque arm.
Yeah. Wow, that's something. That's good. I didn't know that.
I did not know that. But yeah, you still have to have factory suspension pickup points. If your car came with leaf springs, you got to run leaf springs.
Mhm.
If your car came with coils and a triangulated 4-link, you got to run that. You can't back half it and change it to something else. It's got to be the factory pickup points. Now, can you run a different spring? Sure. Right?
Mhm.
Can you run a Caltrax on that? Yes. But you cannot move the factory pickup points. If you choose that platform, you're stuck with that.
That's right. Yeah. And that would be one of the downfalls of one of the early Novas is because you're stuck with how small that fender is.
Well, and that's where I'm at with this little 63 Buick. The freaking, I mean, I'm looking at 8-inch wide slicks to try to get it like 26 by 8s because it has no wheel well.
So he's asking where can the rules be found, etc. They're actually, go ahead, John. What's that?
There you go.
NoNameNationals.com right there.
And where you can actually, if you go there and take a look at that, just go right at the top and then hit right there for the full weekend and just buy a ticket and just make sure that way you're going to show up and build something and run it. Just buy it and then go down and then look at that.
All right there.
It's all right there. Yeah, so he says that he thinks that his 81 Monza had a torque arm as well. Huh? I didn't know that.
So Vintage Adventure Drives just popped in.
Hey
guys, I just got back from driving the Race Scamp. That thing is throwing tons of ferrous metal 8s. And I'm sure it's just showing ferrous metal in the radiator.
Ooh. Just out of trash out of the block, maybe.
That's what I would think is that probably just driving it, especially if you're driving on the streets, shaking things up and it's been sitting for a while.
Also, too, some of those people don't clean out those blocks very good after they've been decked or cleaned. They don't hose them out, and a lot of that metal just sits in the bottom. And then once you start driving them, it kind of gets into the radiator. So I would probably back flush it.
Yeah, and I ended up having to do that at No Name Nationals last year in the parking lot because my Suburban just got a bunch of crap stirred up in the engine block. But I want to try LA's Totally Awesome, right? I was going to drain all the water out of the radiator and then fill it with LA's Totally Awesome and then pour in some water to top it off and get it nice and hot and flush it through there. And you can see all the crap coming out and then drained it out, right? And then just continue to flush it till the water runs clear, no bubbles. That's what I ended up doing. And then I filled it with distilled water and I put some baking soda in there to neutralize the acidity of the antifreeze.
You know, there's a comment right here that I had no idea with Raybestos going out of business. I mean, like we all know that. Did you know that? Did you know Raybestos is going out?
No, but I do know that Fram, anything that was, what is it? A1
Allied
Auto?
Signal?
Is it Allied Signal?
Allied
Okay.
Signal.
With them going under, they own a lot of those brands.
Really? I did not know that Allied Signal was going under. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
What's
They're
a good
going down. And Fram, Autolite, Robustus, Centric. There's a lot of brake parts and hoses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to squirrel away a few things.
So he's basically, where's a good company to buy aluminum brakes from to avoid the Chinesium warp out of the box? I would have no idea.
Buy aluminum brakes from?
What part of the aluminum brakes, like master cylinder?
Oh, is he talking about the drum?
He's probably talking about the drums, yeah.
You're not going to buy those. You're going to have to find them secondhand.
Yeah. eBay, that's
I bought a whole car to get them.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, all the stuff I've been getting for my Slant 6 to T5 as far as all my plastic parts or my steel parts. It's just been on eBay. So, and there's tons of that stuff out there. So just go and check it out. Here's a good one here. I think my buddy at work registered for his channel for No Name Nationals. He has a Coyote swapped F100. His name is David. I think that's awesome. I would love to see
He's
that.
not yet registered.
Okay.
We'd like for him to.
Yeah. He's saying that the problem with the block is that it's sat for years with 2 core plugs out. It's been running a coolant lifter filter and flushing it religiously recently. So I would just keep flushing it. And like Dallas did, run the LA Awesome or the CLR, just put it in the block and then keep cleaning it out. I'm going to say this, but I'm telling you, do this at your own risk. I've used, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this on the air. I've used pool acid before, and that literally will clean the. What's that?
That's a common thing.
Yeah, but
I can't remember what is it called.
It's just pool acid. Yeah, you can get
it. No, it's got another
muriatic acid.
Muriatic acid. That's it.
Yeah,
but use it for etching concrete too.
Yeah, so I tell people this because it will eat your aluminum alive. Just know that. So people will fill it up and they'll have an aluminum, water pump on there, and it literally will eat it. It will just completely eat it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so if you're going to do it, just be safe. But it will clean it right out and flush it out, and then use baking soda to neutralize it, and then keep flushing it through, and then it'll be fine. But it'll clean it right out.
So what does that do to your brass radiator?
Brass does not really corrode that bad.
No. But as
far as a non-corrodable item, that's why it's used in like seaborne applications, because the salt water will destroy it.
That's awesome.
But
yeah.
I'm sure given enough time it would destroy it, but aluminum is like the easiest metal to get rid of with an acid or really strong base.
So Tanner said his engine sat for years with the core plugs out. I would want to know why they're out.
Yeah, right.
Rust out because it sounds.
He says, I drove it about a mile earlier, revved it out to 5,500, and after another half a mile, it hit almost 255 to 260. All right.
Oh, boy.
One. I mean, a big block Mopar can take some heat because they got that deep skirted block.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of heat sink, right?
Yeah.
But, man, I'll bet you tore it down right now. It'd have a ridge in it if it was running at that temperature.
Yeah.
That's where you get those ring ridges at.
Yeah.
Destruction.
So he was saying he didn't think the Coyote was allowed. Coyote is allowed at the No Name Nationals. It can run in any of the classes. You have the match racing, you have heads up, you have call outs, you can do any of the brackets. Burnout, you can do the lamp. It's just not the Triple Crown.
Don't conflate the Triple Crown class with the No Name Nationals.
Yeah. It's just one class.
You can bring a dragster. You can run anything except like steel treaded tank tracks down the track.
The easiest way to explain it is like the No Name Nationals is a circus.
Yeah.
The Triple Crown is the clowns.
It's one eye.
Right?
It's the one circle. It's one of the rings in the clown house. You know what I mean?
We've had guys bring rock crawlers to go down the track. We've had guys bring stock cars,
dirt track stock cars.
So there's this place. It's the only event with a place for absolutely everyone at the No Name Nationals. But Triple Crown is a class.
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't conflate that. You have a Coyote swapped anything, you can bring it. You just might be able to run in that class.
Dallas, you mentioned you had a hard time getting in 2006 I had a hard time getting it off. I haven't built one since, but I have and use oven cleaner quite often on engine builds. As a matter of fact, I have a short on that.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Buick Smith also says Trico is one of the vendors going under as well.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, wipers. Yeah.
I used to love their wipers. They were the only ones that actually would sell those insertable sleeves. Remember that?
Yeah, the replaceable refill.
Oh, yeah. Man, it was bitchy because
like
I love that.
Oh, Racer Ray saying the old radiator flush had muriatic acid in it.
Oh, yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. But that was because there's not a lot of aluminum, but just be careful because it will eat that aluminum. So I guess Fab is saying that anything part of the First Brands is gone. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
First Brands.
Tanner says you just don't beat on that 400. You won't have that problem. Well, that's the whole point of it. You got to beat on it. That's the best part about it.
He's joking about it.
I
But
know.
so First Brands, what they ended up doing was, if you look at it, I guess probably 10 years ago, all those names kind of got bought up as as the economy tanked in like 2008. All these little small companies that were just specializing in one thing, Rebestus, right? Brakes. They all got bought up by these larger corporate entities. And then what happens is the larger corporate entities gut them for everything that they're worth and then borrow money against their name and then file Chapter 11. And then they bail and they leave those small companies. It's the same thing. What did they used to call it back in the 80s? It was the hostile takeover. That's what they used to call it, hostile takeover. It's the same thing. That's been going on since the beginning of time. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of these companies are getting handed their ass by the Chinese, because you guys already know my take on the Chinese stuff. These people work for nothing. So, I mean, of course they're going to be able to undercut Rebestus.
Yeah. Barrows is saying that's why the 1848 Colt Navy revolver was cast in brass for the saltwater.
Oh, well, that makes sense. I did not know that, but that's cool. And now I need to find one.
That would be cool.
That would be bitching, right?
Yeah.
Just to show up like No Name Nationals, like John when he carries every day. I'll just show up with my 1848 Colt Navy revolver in brass, prepared to dive.
Here's actually a good one. Just remember, always add acid to water, never water to acid. Adding water to acid will cause a violent reaction.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
I guess it really comes down to what kind of acid it is, because, like when you put the acid in, say, a pool, that's the whole point, is you're adding the acid to this. But yeah, I would always mix them, and I would have like distilled water, and then you pour the acid into that, and then you would fill it into the engine block.
So Tim Smith is down there at the bottom, said, how many cars can a person run in the Triple Crown? You could technically probably run as many as you could fathom.
But if you pull yourself,
you can make the rounds.
But what happens if you pull yourself?
If you pull yourself, you're just one of them's gonna have to go out.
Yeah.
That's but the guys from SSR Performance had 2 cars last year, but there was 2 different drivers, but it was both from the same channel.
Yeah. First Brand. Yeah, I didn't know that First Brand was a company. Companies are the process of building absorbed by other companies. However, I didn't know which ones. I really had no idea that was happening.
Adventure drives.
Mopar Restos.
Oh, really? That's where she should go?
Yep. Let him know I sent you.
I would, if it was me and it was my Mopar, I'd freaking put a Roadrunner horn on it.
You can't do that. I love the sound.
My buddy, his name, like, you guys probably seen his car at his name was Radar. We called him Radar. It's I can't remember what his actual name is. Watkins. But anyway, he had a 70 Sport Fury painted plum crazy, right? And it was very 90s car. And he used to have a slant 6 Dodge D100 with a Roadrunner horn on it. And that's like, you see him coming and he would meet, and it was always like kind of funny because it's like an old man truck, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Being a Mopar guy, you can only have that if you have that car. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
Oh, really?
They only go on Roadrunners.
Same with the. It can only be on a 69 Charger that is painted like the Generally. It can only have that.
Yeah, Don's running a 6-fold horn. You'll hear him coming like an ocean liner.
Well, I tell you what, it's like the easiest thing to do. If you got a junkyard around you that has motorcycles, go grab a horn off a motorcycle and put it on your car.
They're cheap.
Yeah, and they don't take much room. They don't weigh anything. And people will be like looking for a motorcycle or a little scooter or whatever. Like, what the hell is that?
But Valiant Adventure 1973. Frank Parks. He's got a YouTube username. I don't know if he has any videos up. He's in Somerville, Georgia. He'll ship to you. He's got a Mopar graveyard with all that kind of stuff. He's exactly the guy I would ask.
Yeah, that's really good, John. Because I was going to say, if you're looking for something newer, Classic Industries, but it never sounds correct.
His will sound exactly factory because it is factory.
Yeah. Yeah, John, send me that because I'm looking for some stuff. If you could send me that link.
Yeah, that's what I was doing right now. I'll pull him up. I'll find his YouTube channel here.
Yeah, as long as you go full John Wilburn.
Yeah. let me get it. He's a good dude. I bought parts from him, and when he sends you parts, he'll be very selective, and he's really, really knowledgeable. He's not like going to the parts store. Okay.
Oh, good.
You tell him you need something really specific, he will know all the nuances of the factory parts. He's great like that.
Wow, that's awesome.
So down at the bottom, Vintage Adventure Drives, and I know exactly kind of like what this is about because I saw this the other day on John's on one of his shorts. There was a comment about this. Dallas, any recommendations on how to keep a quadrijet from boiling fuel? Someone's Valiant has a factory Chrysler quadrijet, and I'm not familiar with it. It runs out of fuel if you let it idle too long. I don't think her car came factory with the quadrijet because it's too old, isn't it? Isn't hers like a 73 or
it definitely didn't come with that. No.
Okay, so it would have been a thermoquad on that, and someone's put a quadrijet on there for you, and it probably is not tuned properly because each quadrijet is made for the specific application that it's on. That's how they came from Rochester. And you can interchange them around, but what you normally find is the tune is way wrong. Right. And that's just because of the size of the air bleeds, the primary metering rods, the jets are set up for whatever that original application was. Now, to keep it from boiling fuel, okay, the quadrijet seems to have this problem on mainly Chrysler products, I'm assuming, because you've brought it up and Uncle Tony brings this up a lot. Me, I've never had a problem with the quadrijet boiling fuel, but with the heat crossover that's on the Chryslers, I could see a heat boiling problem being the case because it has a very large heat crossover. Okay, there is certain quadrijet applications that came with factory aluminum heat shields. So it was essentially sandwiched between you have a large paper press gasket with a factory aluminum heat shield and then a small paper gasket. And what would happen is that aluminum would dissipate the heat before it got to the carburetor. And then the carburetor was insulated from that aluminum heat shield with like a 1/4-inch gasket. So if anything is going to work to keep it cool, that would be the way to go. But generally, the quadrijet has such a small fuel bowl that the turnover rate is fairly high. And I'm kind of wondering if the Chryslers don't have the volume because they came originally with carburetors with 2 float bowls on them. And it doesn't move the volume that like a GM is designed for, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Because those carburetors were initially designed around the fuel flow from like a GM fuel pump. And then, when you went to the Chrysler, all the Carter carburetors had essentially twice as much, or maybe even 4 times as much fuel bowl area. So it didn't need the volume that the GM ones did because they were all designed around that small float bowl, and then you just move lots of fuel into it. I don't know if that makes any sense. So that's what they were designed around. And I'm kind of wondering if this is something that I should probably dig into and get smart about.
That'd be a good one. So this is actually going to be a 2-part question here. Does anyone know if Buff and Kim are keeping the slant in the Ute? Sadly, I've not been on their channel in a while. Does anyone know that? If they're keeping?
I don't know, but I'd seen a question about the 6-cylinder class. And yes, we do plan to have another 6-cylinder bracket. It was very popular last year, so it's a 6-cylinder bracket. Pretty much the only rules are no electronics and no trans brakes. I don't want trans brakes in there, but
John, you read my mind on part 2 of that question because I guess we missed it up there in the.
I saw it earlier, but this is a good segue to bring it up again.
Exactly. And someone texted it to me, hey, you missed a question about that. So, and I was telling Downs that this is that I'm driving the Lizard King because I'm driving straight from the track to 666. And that happens on Friday, the 6-cylinder class.
I believe they run the finals on the Saturday.
Oh, they do run the finals.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be in it on, well, I probably won't run it then because
I do think that slant 6 is staying in there. So I keep seeing people asking about that.
Yeah. I was going to run the class if it was all on Friday, but if the finals are done on Saturday, I won't run the class. I'll do something different.
Well, see if you get eliminated. If you get eliminated, then hey, not a problem.
But if I eliminate someone else, that's the only problem is I don't want to do that. And because I already know I'm not going to be there Saturday. I don't want to do that. Yeah. So let someone else have fun. I don't care about it.
So
it would just be for fun for me.
Vintage Adventure Drive says that car was originally a slant 6 car. It has a Chrysler Quadrajet. The previous owner installed a fuel pressure regulator. Is that worth having, or should I remove it? Man, if that regulator is not returning fuel to the tank, I would ditch it. The Quadrajet likes 5.5, 6 pounds. It is pretty easy to overcome the needle and seat. But I think the Chryslers don't run it much higher than that anyway.
Should be like a factory Carter pump. Doesn't put out more than that.
But I'll bet you, I think the problem is the volume. It's a volume issue to where you don't have enough turnover in the carburetor.
And that's exactly what Michael Schmidt's saying here. I've never seen them boil fuel. I've only seen them run out of fuel. That's what I've ever seen problems with them happen. He says that Plymouth on Plywood saying that he knows of a couple salvage yards full of A bodies in the north, all in the north though. I remember seeing a bunch of them when we were in 22. We were on drag week, and we drove right past literally a whole Mopar graveyard. It was awesome. Junker D saying that he believes that Kim is making a turbo for the Slant 6 and the Ute. Well, I think that'd be awesome. Anything else, John? John, what do you got going on this Friday?
Well, I got a lot of work to catch up on when I get back, but we'll be live Friday. And also, I want to remind people that Friday is the beginning of the Shorts Challenge, 30 shorts in 30 days. It'll begin on June 5th, and it's going to run through July 4th. 30 shorts in 30 days, 1 short per day every day. And we do this for the No Name 500 guys, but anybody can do it. I'm going to do it with you, just a 1 short every day about just whatever. It's a great way to get subs, great way to get you motivated on content, and it's just fun.
Well, so I've been doing some thinking here about Vintage Adventure Drives and his Quadrajet in that Valiant, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says he says down here, Dallas confirmed my hypothesis. The most I've seen from a Chrysler fuel pump was 6 psi. That car runs well when colder, but runs out of fuel once it's hot. So here's what I think needs to happen is the Chrysler fuel pump. I don't know if it's, you guys don't have to answer this because I'm not familiar with them. Did the air conditioned models have the return line on the fuel pump?
No, I think that was an EGR thing. I think it was on the fuel pump. They didn't return them until, was it late 70s, wasn't it? Because I know when they got the charcoal canister.
So that's what I would start looking at is I would look at a fuel pump, and maybe you might have to lean heavier towards the aftermarket and find like a Carter, they used to have Carter super pumps for like a Chevrolet or something. But I'm sure you can get them for just about everything, right? The Carter super pump, isn't that available for just about everything?
But you can also do this too, is that
get one with a return line and it'll return and recirculate fuel. And I would ditch that fuel pressure regulator because that fuel pump is pretty much only going to make 5 pounds.
Chrysler came with a fuel filter, a little different than the GM, where GM would have
it had a return line on the fuel filter, didn't it?
Yes, exactly. And it's a 60,000 orifice. I put that on my car. It literally killed every single vapor lock I had. And it's just a little tiny hole, and it comes straight off, and you rotate that so that way that's facing straight up, and then you rotate it back around.
See.
And then
So it might be worthwhile to get like a high volume pump for like a 340 or something with a 6-pack,
Yeah,
and then
and just
put
put that in
that fuel filter in line and recirculate the fuel, right?
Yeah, just put it. You put it right as close as you can to the carburetor, and then you run a line all the way back. And on your Chrysler, you have, if you got an A body, B body, you have the filler tube. There's always a vent line there, and then you run it into that vent line. So that's a return system. And the caps nowadays, mine is a vented cap. So you just put a vented cap on it, so that way it vents outside, and then you have a return system. And that's literally what I did, and it solved all my problems with vapor lock.
Gotcha. See, and I bet you this would fix a lot of the problems with that carburetor. It does have a small fuel bowl, but usually it doesn't suffer from boiling fuel. It normally suffers from starvation issues.
Is it
Mhm.
5/16 or 3/8 of the carburetor?
What do you mean? Going
I'm
inside?
I'm asking them. Their
Oh.
fuel line, their inlet line is a 5/16. You can get the filter spec for the 85 B150 like mine is a metal filter with that little piece on the side. It's exactly what you want.
Yep. And that's they have two of them. They have 5/16 and a 3/8. I have the numbers written downstairs,
Yeah.
but I run the 5/16 one for my car because I don't need much, and it works beautiful.
Huh.
Specific
And
hashtag on that, no Racer Ray. We just do it. And Valiant Adventure, I'll just shout out real quick.
Sure.
In 3 days, she went from 9 subs and running last in the No Name 500 to running second.
What's she at right now?
142.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah,
And
I was number 9, and you were number 11. Yeah. About the Dyno Day. Oh yes. James is saying that we need to nail down a day for the Dyno Day.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think you had said you were going to send me a list of dates that were good for you. I think that's what you'd said. Just hit me up on Facebook and then send me that list, whatever dates would be good for you. And I think we could probably make it happen.
Yeah, I'm whenever works for you, James, we'll work around that. I would hope it'd be in a few more months, so that way I can actually bring my green car up there, because it's going to have stick shift, and I would really like to see what it'll do. He's not measured the fuel line size. I'll get to fiddling with it soon. Yeah, well, that's fine. Oh man, we're getting down to that time, man.
I know. And you know what? Like, I'm thinking about vintage adventure drives and that heat shield thing. I just showed John one today, the heat shield, because it's like, I just thought it was funny. We were putting a quadrojet on his van, right? And it's like, man, it just looks so weird with that Hemi orange and a quadrojet right in the middle. But it started up and didn't run so hot because nothing had been adjusted. But man, once I started giving it some fuel at idle, smoothed out, running pretty good. I'm actually impressed.
I think when you were telling me it's running 23 inches of vacuum at idle, that's amazing for how many miles that thing's got on it.
21. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did have it up at 23, I thought.
Well, yeah, we had a little higher than that. It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot for even.
Yeah, and it's a small cubic inch. You don't normally aren't that high. So, yeah.
Well, anyways, we're going to be getting out of here, man. We got about 2 more minutes, man. This is flown by for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's gone by quick again. There might be some mobile dynos near Sykeston that might be willing to come donate nationals extra. That'd be awesome.
Afford that, and I'm telling you,
That's
it's just each go steal the entire event. They want a pile of money. They want you to do a whole bunch of sponsors on a T-shirt. It will suck the life out of the event to do that.
well, and here's the thing, that SSR Performance is literally less than an hour away.
Exactly.
And he offered the first year, anybody going to No Name Nationals, come on over here and dine on your stuff.
Yeah, go do dyno stuff with SSR. He's right there. He's not that far.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to be getting out of here, gentlemen. And you two guys, Mr. Dallas, Mr. Wilburn, keep those shorts up, because I like watching him keeps up to date. I think they're awesome. And don't forget to go see Mr. John Wilburn on his channel, John Wilburn, 7 Central, 9 Eastern time. And he's always got something going on over there. And he'll probably be telling you soon when Deke's coming up, and all the questions for Tech will be.
Yeah,
at
that's
that
coming
time.
soon. But we're going to kick off our shorts challenge. So I want you guys to know now, you got to have one up on Friday to start. If you miss one, you're out of the running, because we try to pick somebody to win it, just who's done one every day and done cool stuff. And Lars and I watch to see how many subs you gain. We're going to note your subs before it starts. Tomorrow night, we're going to note your subs and see who can get the most subs on shorts in those 30 days.
It's awesome. On with that, guys. We're going to be getting out of here. You guys take it easy. Have a great week, and I hope we clarified everything for the Triple Crown for you. So, all right, guys, take it easy. See you guys next week.
See it.